What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with a market update. And this was a subscriber request, and I thought it was a good idea. And that's to talk about some recent prices for the retro collection. And there are rumblings on Yakface and elsewhere that they're going to be releasing a new wave of Mandalorian retro collection figures soon. So, at least announcing them, probably for next spring is my guess, just given all the recent announcements that Hasbro has had here recently. But I thought now would be a good time to kind of talk about some of the other retro collection figures out there. I found some really interesting ones, some ungraded examples, as well as some graded examples. And I needed to make an apology to a few Patreon supporters. My idiotic graphic that I'm putting up right now was cutting off a few names because I just didn't have the spacing set up. So I've changed the graphic. I think I've got everybody on there now who is a Patreon supporter. So I apologize for past videos. And I also want to mention that for some of the videos that I'm making for whenever I go away, that Patreon graphic is outdated, okay? So I've had a lot of recent Patreon supporters that have joined, and just be aware that that graphic for a lot of the pre-recorded content is outdated. Let's dig in. I think I've talked enough about that, but again, sorry to my Patreon supporters for cutting you off. It was not intentional. So first of all, let's talk about one of the recent ones that just came out. And that's the Boba Fett prototype edition, and it's a pretty cool figure. I think I got one single, and I've got a few lots as well to kind of talk about that. But it seems like this one was sold in the UK, but it seems like the going price is about $36 pounds, or about $50 US. So about, I don't know what exactly that is, about 2.5 times retail. So that's kind of what they're going for now already on the resale market. And so that's just one example that has the yellow. And I don't personally collect these prototype figures. They're really cool and everything. I've got to cut it off somewhere, you know what I mean? And talking to folks that do collect them, it seems like they really like to try and be a completionist, to get all the different head colors and all the different kind of combinations of the colors out there. So it lends itself to collectability and to getting all the different variants. And on that note, here is one that I was shocked by. So this was a lot of 6 of them, and it looks like it had all the different colored heads, or at least lots of different color combinations for the bodies, torsos, and the limbs, and the head colors. And so this was 6 of them, and I could not believe the price on this one. This one sold for $623, or 450 Great British pounds. That's on the upper end of the scale. I've seen similar lots like this of 4 and 6 go for anywhere from 200 to about 350 in the US. But you know, for those collectors that maybe have a lot of disposable income and don't want to have to go through the process of ordering each one individually or trying to find each one individually, it's awfully attractive for those folks to just go ahead and buy a huge lot of them and maybe overpay a little bit. But this one was on the higher end of the scale in terms of price point for a lot of 6 of them. But I've seen some lots for the prototype Boba Fett go for as low as about 300. But this one was on the upper end for 6 of them. So interesting data point for those that are trying to collect them all. Here's another one. This one was 350 pounds, best offer accepted for 6 of them. And it looks like it's got every different head color. It's got blue, orange, red, yellow, purple, and green head colors. So that's a nice way to complete your different Boba Fett iterations, so to speak. And here's another lot that has, it looks like all different head colors. That one sold for $387, or 280 pounds. So just a few data points there for those that are looking to collect them all, so to speak. It's like Pokemon, except with action figures. Here is a lot of the Darth Vaders. This one sold for $600, best offer accepted. And again, it had a bunch of different colors. It looks like it has 2 orange heads, but different torso colors, 2 blue heads with different torso colors, and then a red and a purple head. So anyway, I don't know. I'm just throwing the data out there because I think there are a lot of collectors out there that love these and love trying to get all the different iterations. On the upper end of the scale for the Darth Vader prototype edition, this one sold for 110 pounds, ungraded, and it wasn't in perfect condition, but pretty darn good. That's $150 US plus shipping. So that Vader has really gone up a lot in price, and I imagine that the Boba Fett, as well as the recently announced Stormtrooper prototype edition will probably follow suit. I would think that, you know, I'd be really surprised if Hasbro doesn't take advantage of the Mandalorian's popularity and does the same thing for the Mandalorian. They already have the sculpt, obviously, since they released the Retro Collection Mandalorian back in May of this year. So I would imagine that the next special edition prototype will be the Mandalorian. But that's just a guess on my part. Who knows if I'm right or not, but it seems like it makes a lot of sense for Hasbro to do that. I also got a few graded examples of the Retro Collection. This one is the Retro Collection Darth Vader, graded 9.0 on the modern scale. And that one was uncirculated too. So that's a pretty good price if you ask me. $80 plus $15 shipping. That's a pretty good number, I feel like, for an uncirculated 9.0. Here was a Han Solo. This one was uncirculated 9.0 as well. Same price, $80 plus $15 shipping. The Luke, this one was uncirculated 9.0, same price again. So it gives you a rough idea of what that first wave of Retro Collection goes for in a U9.0, about $80 or so for most of them. There were some other examples, though, that were higher graded, and so this was a U9.5, so very, very mint. And you can see the price disparity. It's sold for about 3 times what a U9.0 sold for. So to go from a U9.0 for $80 to get to a 9.5 uncirculated, you got to pay $250. So that's a big price jump, but it just shows you, just like with vintage Kenner stuff that we've talked about in those market updates for vintage Kenner, to go from, you know, a fairly standard grade of an 85 to go to an 85 plus or a 90 for a vintage figure, the price disparity is massive, and the same holds true, obviously, for modern items. And then here was an uncirculated Retro Collection Stormtrooper. Again, it's the same kind of price disparity. This one sold for $80. 2 of them have sold. There's still 1 left. And so it's right in line. So you can expect to pay that for a U9.0. And then again, to go from a U9.0 to a 9.5 for the same figure, it's $250 with free shipping. So pretty interesting to see that price jump. A U9.5 Leia sold for even more. So it's pretty crazy. Obviously, Leia's a pretty popular character, and to get a U9.5 in the Retro Collection version of Princess Leia, you got to pay $300. So that's the last data point that I could find for a high-grade Leia. And then one interesting one was this Grand Moff Tarkin. This one had the 3-tier grading, and so obviously this is the pack-in for the Death Star game exclusive. This was not uncirculated, so this was, you know, taken out of the board game before sending it to AFA, and we'll talk more about that on a different one in a second. But this one was on the 3-tiered scale. The card got an 85, blister got a 90, figure got a 90. That one sold for $80 plus $15 shipping. I think that's a great price. And then this one I thought was to kind of tie it back. This one is an uncirculated Luke Skywalker in his snowspeeder. So this was packed in with the Hoth Adventure game, the Ice Planet Hoth Adventure game. And so somebody sent in the entire board game and had AFA remove the card back from inside that box. And even brand new out of the box, it still only got a U85. But it's very difficult to get it uncirculated because you have to send that whole board game in to AFA to get it graded uncirculated. So despite only getting a U85, it still got a $200 price sales price. So just an interesting data point there. And I think it's interesting that AFA will actually take it out of the board game, grade it, and then send the used contents back from the board game along with the graded figure. So going back to the Mandalorian Retro Collection, here's the first wave, and this one also included the Monopoly pack-in Remnant Stormtrooper, as you see in the lower right-hand corner. And so that was the only way to get that Remnant Stormtrooper. I've got that one in my collection. And so to get the entire wave of the Retro Collection Mandalorian figures plus that pack-in, someone paid $142 or 103 pounds. So, but as the rumblings are starting and the rumor mill is starting that there is going to be another wave for these figures. So you haven't really seen any AFA or Collector Archive Services graded Retro Collection figures because of the backlog at AFA and CAS. But I imagine this fall we're probably going to start seeing these items come back from the grading companies you know, since they were probably sent in May, June timeframe, that puts you kind of into this fall, November, December timeframe for when those will start coming back and showing up on the resale market. So it'll be interesting to see if the price point stays the same, about $80 for a 9.0, and then higher for, you know, higher grades. So we'll kind of revisit that maybe later this winter, as some of those data points start to trickle out and those sales start to happen for the graded retro collection Mandalorian wave. But anyway, I just thought that was an interesting one, since it did have the Monopoly board game pack-in of the Remnant Stormtrooper. And then finally we have this one included the Hoth Ice Planet Adventure game sealed with the Luke Skywalker and his Snowspeeder gear, and then it also had the Wave 2 Empire Strikes Back retro collection. And to get that entire wave sold for $138 and change, or about 100 pounds. So that kind of covers everything really that's out there right now. I'm sure we're going to start seeing some resales for the prototype edition Stormtrooper, and then maybe later this winter, as I mentioned, we'll start looking at graded retro collection Mandalorian figures. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I try to do these updates regularly, and I try to meet subscriber requests like this video when it makes sense. And I think that there was a good idea by whoever, and I apologize that I don't remember the viewer's name that recommended that we talk about these, but I think it was kind of an interesting kind of thing to look at, to see what kind of price points we're seeing for both graded and ungraded retro collection figures, especially as we start getting into the anniversary, hopefully soon, for, I guess it's 2023 would be the anniversary for Return of the Jedi. And so I imagine we'll probably see a wave of Return of the Jedi figures. And, you know, maybe in the comments below, after you give this video a thumbs up, I would love to hear what your speculation will be as to who will be included in the Return of the Jedi retro collection wave. I'm going to go ahead and say Luke Jedi is going to be definitely one of them. And that'll be really cool to see him on a retro card. But it's hard to say who else will be on there. Maybe the Emperor, Bib Fortuna, I don't know. But anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts as to who you think might be included in that retro collection wave that I would think would come out either late next year or maybe spring of 2023. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.